Let's get your sense of the market's trend. It seems it's somewhat in a sleep mode right now, and I don't see much that is really going to wake it up. Earnings season is not really going to kick off till maybe late January or February. There's very little news about the activities of AMCON and M&A activity, which is perhaps one thing that many analysts are saying is going to drive this market forward. And of course, there are always question marks on the economy and credit, the flow of credit in the private sector. What are your thoughts on where this market is right now and where do we go from here?
Well, it appears that the market is about to go on a holiday. You recall that a couple of days back we had a winning streak for about, I think, was it 6 or 7 days in a row, and people were getting excited. Now we've had 3 days downwards now, so clearly it's a bit flat. It's trading sideways, and I think as we move towards the Christmas season, we're just going to see more of the same. Just see perhaps a flat market, and hopefully in the new year after the holidays, things should pick up. Like I said, once we start to see those quarterly results coming in, then maybe things will pick up. Yeah.
One investor group that has perhaps sat on the sideline for quite a while is the retail investors, and obviously that's put a lot of pressure on the stockbroking business because many of them depend on these investors for their business. But where are they putting their money now? Is it more a flow into the fixed income space with where interest rates are now, or is it more in real estate?
I think if you're looking at the retail investor, somebody who has maybe little amounts of money, I would say most of that money is in the banks, in some savings account, no matter the rate they're getting, because a lot of them have lost quite a bit of money in the capital market, so they're just so risk averse that, they'll rather make 1 or 2% than make 0% and even lose capital. So I think some of it is in the banks. For other investors who have some fair amount of money, perhaps some of them are looking at real estate. I've heard people say, look, let me stay with real estate, at least I can see the building and, over time it will get better. So maybe real estate. Then as bond yields are improving, I won't be surprised if some people start to move into bonds, because if you can get invest in a 3-year federal government bond, 11-12%, that might encourage some people to look at it. So, but some people are still buying equities, small amounts, little amounts, maybe not as they used to, but they're still there.
And of course, the issue of margin trading is something that's probably left us for another
margin
1 or 2 years.
No, I think it will come back, but in a more structured and organized and perhaps better regulated form. Yeah.
Okay, let's take your views on where the economy is going. We've seen there's a lot of news about where external reserves are. There's more doubts as to if we can have a stable naira with $33 billion in external reserves right now. What are your thoughts? What's your biggest concern about the economy right now?
For me, just like everybody else, I think, yes, okay, the external reserves have gone down. But I think perhaps what is worrying for me particularly is what people now call the quality of spending. So it's one thing to spend money, but if you spend money properly, then hopefully you're investing it and it can give you returns. But if it's wasteful spending, then, we're just going back to square one. So I'm worried about the quality of spending. I think that's what everybody is saying. The finance minister was quoted as saying that he's also worried about the quality of spending. Because if most of that was going into infrastructure and so on, if you are drawing down reserves to fund infrastructure, to fund power, that would make sense to me, because hopefully that would, in the long run, that would pay you. But if you are drawing down for waste, for people to embezzle it, then we have a problem. But I'm positive about the economy, that we'll have a better year next year. If we grow 6-7% this year, I think as a minimum we should grow that same percentage next year, even better. Depending on what oil prices do, depending on how the politics go and so on. So I'm optimistic about the economy, but we need to get our spending under wraps and try and make sure that we spend wisely and good quality spending. Yes. I
mean, you speak of optimism, but I think generally it's cautious optimism, given the fact that we're going to an election year. Politics is in the front burner. We know in Nigeria's history with elections, I think many people are a bit cautious there.
No, you should be cautious, but I think if you look at our history is that the worst never happens. It has never happened. So, I mean, if you want to go by history, I would say, well, the worst has never happened. But clearly, as an investor, it will make sense to be very careful and see how things go. Do we get the voters register right? Do the aspirants come out properly? And do we have proper elections and so on? Yeah, but again, I'm an optimist. I guess that's my school of thought. I expect the elections to work out well, fairly well. And that should maybe be a catalyst for the economy to even grow faster. Yeah.
I mean, against that cautious outlook, how do you invest in equities right now? I mean, obviously there are the banks, people talking about valuations, many banks trading below book value and saying that is a no-brainer. And of course you have the consumer companies that are obviously picking on Nigeria's huge consumer market. Many of them are reported very positive numbers this year. Going into next year with the uncertainty, more so with the politics, how do you invest in this market?
Well, I think the same things you've said. You know, you look at the banking. I've always said there are still some good buys in banking. Prices are still reasonable. But it's the underlying thing you need to have in mind as an investor. You must be investing for the long term. You're not going to double or triple anything, not right now. So if you have that at the back of your mind and you're looking for good value, stocks with fundamental value, there's still some in banking, there's still some in the bureaus, there's still some in even in insurance, there's still some in other sectors. But you have to pick winners and then wait.
So the key is really your horizon right now.
Yes. For me, you have to be long-term. And if you say, okay, how long-term is long-term? I'll say, look, minimum 18, 24 months. If it comes faster, then fine. But you've got to be able to stay in there. You've got to be able to stay in. And of course, I would advise that, be careful with leverage because, it may just take you a while to get your money back. Yeah.
Leverage. I remember that whole phrase about leverage. It's
you can leverage up your profits and you can leverage down your losses. Yeah.